Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us at VeeamON. I'm Colin Scully, Director of Strategic Accounts at Security. Joining me today is Gareth Spanglet, one of our sales engineers and someone who works with enterprise security and data teams every day. Gareth, great to be doing this with you.
Great to be here, Colin. This is a topic I'm genuinely passionate about. The organizations that get this right are going to have a real competitive edge, and I'm looking forward to making it practical for everyone here today.
Here's where we're headed today. We'll start with why data security has never mattered more than it does right now. Then we'll walk through some real customer stories that show what's actually possible. And after that, Gareth is going to walk us through how security's data command center solves these challenges. And we'll wrap up with a live demonstration. Gareth, let's start with the why. When you look at enterprise security teams and the environments that they're dealing with and navigating right now, what's changed?
Well, Colin, the stakes have risen across three fronts simultaneously, compounded by the explosive growth in data which shows no signs of slowing down. First, breaches are no longer rare events. They're expected, they're expensive. We're talking multi-million-dollar losses, and preventing them and limiting the blast radius has become a core operating requirement, not a nice to have. Second, compliance has gotten dramatically more complex. Most organizations discover their gaps only after an audit or enforcement action, sometimes under a consent order that directly limits their ability to do business. Regulatory fines are a material and real business risk. And the third, and this is the one that's creating the most urgency in the boardrooms, organizations are under enormous pressure to accelerate AI adoption, but uncertainty about the safe use of their sensitive data is blocking a lot of that progress.
And the research backs this up, doesn't it? What are the numbers telling us here?
Well, Colin, two pieces of research that I keep coming back to. JP Morgan found that AI is a massive disruptor for every company. The projected economic impact is in the tens of trillions of dollars by 2030. And 92% of companies plan to invest more in generative AI over the next 3 years. Employees are already using it 3 times more than their leaders realize. So the pressure to move fast is real, and it's already here. But Morgan Stanley found something equally important on the other side of the equation. Data security is the single #1 inhibitor to scaling AI adoption. When companies roll out enterprise AI tools, users naturally start asking sensitive questions, searching for compensation data, customer records, confidential IP. Without governance in place, AI access to data potentially creates exposure at machine speed and scale.
So what's the conclusion from all of this?
Well, it's simple, and it's the thesis of everything we're going to talk about today. There is no AI security without data security. A strong data security and governance foundation is more than a precondition to AI adoption. It is the foundation for successful AI. Organizations that have it will move faster, more safely, and with more confidence. Those that don't will find themselves blocked by their own risk teams, by regulators, or by incidents they didn't even see coming.
So if the foundation is so important, why don't more organizations have it? What's getting in the way?
Well, the honest answer is that data complexity is making it extraordinarily difficult. In a typical large organization, you're dealing with tens of billions of files, hundreds of millions of database tables, hundreds of thousands of data streams spread across public clouds, private clouds, SaaS environments, and on-premise storage. And each piece of that data carries its own context: where it is, how sensitive it is, who has access to it, what regulations apply, whether it's still active or should have been deleted years ago. No human team can inventory and classify all of this manually at scale. The complexity itself is the first blocker.
And that complexity leads directly to teams not being able to answer some pretty fundamental questions.
Exactly right. And this is where I see organizations really struggle. They know they have a problem, but they can't articulate the risk, because the data to answer the question is scattered across too many systems with too little context. And findings from any one system is not the same thing as surfacing risk.
What are those questions?
Well, there are 5 that come up in almost every conversation I have. First, where is our data? And I mean all of it, across every cloud and SaaS environment. 2, what is sensitive? What is actually being classified, and is the classification accurate? 3rd, what is publicly exposed? Are there misconfigured permissions, open buckets, broadly shared files that shouldn't be? Next, who has unauthorized access? Which users, AI models, or automated systems can reach data they shouldn't? And what specific data is being exposed to and modified by AI systems? What are your agents and LLMs actually seeing? Most teams can answer 1 or 2 of these. Very few can answer all 5. And the ones that can't are operating with significant blind spots.
Does that sound familiar to anyone watching? If you're nodding along, you're not alone. And that's exactly what we're here to address. Before we get into the platform itself, do we have any proof that this is solvable? Are there real customers? Are there real outcomes?
Absolutely. And this is the part I find most compelling to share. So let me walk you through 5 quick examples. We have a Fortune 500 investment company using security to accelerate AI adoption. They're now protecting 14 trillion sensitive data elements discovered in their data. That's not millions, it's 14 trillion.
Wow.
We have a global telco that needed help to minimize their data rot, so redundant, obsolete, and trivial data. They were able to save 6.8 million by eliminating petabytes of rot data they no longer needed, and that also reduced their attack surface. A manufacturing giant needed to govern access for their data science teams. They were able to give 1,000 data scientists automated, governed access without a manual provisioning bottleneck. Another instance, an insurance provider needed to prevent data exposure. They remediated over 1,000 misconfigured data systems, and they did it in hours. And finally, a Fortune 50 bank needed to automate compliance. They saved 6.4 million through automation that replaced manual testing and reporting processes.
Those are meaningful numbers. And these aren't pilot projects. These are production deployments at global scale.
And that's the right way to think about it. These are organizations with some of the largest and most complex data environments in the world. And what they have in common is that they chose a platform approach over individual point solutions.
So how does security actually deliver on these outcomes? What is the Data AI Command Center?
So the Data AI Command Center is a unified platform that understands all of your data and AI systems. It connects to your public clouds, data clouds, private infrastructure, SaaS applications, and AI models, and it builds a comprehensive intelligence layer on top of all of them. And at its core is the Data AI Command Graph, a contextual knowledge graph that captures not just what data you have, but the full web of relationships around it. Who has access? What processes touch it? What regulations apply? What AI systems are interacting with it? And what third-party tools have visibility into it? That graph is what enables the contextual intelligence that none of the point solutions can deliver. And on top of that graph, we provide 5 categories of automated controls: accelerate AI adoption, minimize data rot, govern data access, prevent data exposure, and automate compliance.
So it's not just scanning, it's understanding context and relationships across the entire environment.
And that's a great way to put it, Colin. It is about leveraging the context to surface, prioritize, and remediate data-related risks. Scanning tells you what's there. The data command graph tells you what it means, who's at risk, and what you should do about it. That distinction is what makes the difference between a dashboard full of alerts and findings and actionable intelligence on risk.
So how does the market recognize security in this space?
Well, the independent analyst validation is strong. GigaOM recently ranked security number 1 in their DSPM radar, ahead of players like Wiz, Palo Alto, and Proofpoint. Their principal analyst described it as a truly enterprise-grade solution built to handle the largest and most complex data and AI challenges. Frost & Sullivan named us the most innovative data security posture management leader. We are very proud of our ratings and market recognitions because they reflect the real evaluation of the breadth, depth, and innovation of our platform.
So what makes the coverage so comprehensive?
Well, breadth is one of our most significant differentiators. We support discovery across AWS, Azure, GCP, and every major cloud, including Snowflake and Databricks. SaaS platforms like Salesforce, Microsoft 365, Box, Workday, Slack, and critically, AI systems including Amazon Bedrock, Vertex AI, NVIDIA, Llama, Mistral, and more. The reason breadth matters is that your data doesn't live in one place and your AI ecosystem doesn't run on one platform. A solution that covers 70% of your environment gives you false confidence about the other 30%. We're built to cover the whole data estate under a common classification and policy framework.
One thing that I often hear from CISOs is a concern about data sovereignty. Are we sending our data somewhere we can't control? How does security handle that?
It's a legitimate and important concern, and the architecture was built specifically to address it. Security deploys what we call pods, analysis engines that run inside an organization's environment in their own cloud regions. The scanning and classification happens where the data lives. Sensitive data never has to leave your perimeter or cross jurisdictions. The data command center gets the intelligence, just the metadata, the findings, the risk signals, so no customer data is ever sent to our platform. So you get full sovereignty controls while still having global visibility. That's particularly important for organizations operating under GDPR in Europe, PIPEDA in Canada, or other data residency requirements.
Tell me about toxic combinations. That phrase really jumped out at me.
Well, this is one of my favorite capabilities to explain because it captures something that other tools fundamentally miss. Most security tools look at individual conditions. Is this data sensitive? Is this bucket public? Is this user over-provisioned? And individually, any one of those might be fine. The danger is when several ordinary conditions line up together. So take an example. Sensitive payroll data, social security numbers and salaries, stored in a SharePoint site that's viewable by all employees. Individually, having payroll data is normal. Having a SharePoint site is normal. Having it visible to employees might even seem normal. Together, well, that's a serious data exposure waiting to become a breach or a regulatory incident. So we call these combination of attributes taken together as a toxic combination. And just one other example, personal health information, training data in a public S3 bucket with an orphaned owner being accessed from offshore regions. Any one of those conditions on its own might not trigger an alert elsewhere, but together, they're a HIPAA violation in progress. The data command graph is what makes it possible to detect these combinations because it sees all of these dimensions simultaneously.
So let's bring this all together architecturally. How does security actually work end to end?
Well, let me walk you through the layers. At the foundation is the data command graph, the contextual graph engine that powers everything. Feeding into it is visibility and contextual data intelligence, data and AI asset discovery, the sensitive data discovery, configuration posture analysis, detection of unintended data access, AI and agent use of data, and data activity monitoring. Above that sits our toxic combination and controls layer, where we correlate signals, apply compliance controls, and run data insight policies. Above that is the risk findings and tracking layer. This is where we turn findings and visibility into surface data exposure risks, data access risks, AI data use risks, privacy risks, compliance, and raw data risks. And at the top is the action layer, federated remediation with IT ticketing systems, configuration remediation, data labeling, data quarantining, and workflow orchestration. Finally, all of it feeds into a unified measurement and reporting layer. The business outcomes sit across 3 columns: accelerate growth with responsible data and AI use, protect reputation from data and AI incidents, and ensure compliance with global regulations.
What I love about that architecture is that it's not just a detection tool, it's a full action and remediation system.
And that's the key insight, Colin. Detection without action is just a more expensive way to feel anxious about your data. The value is in being able to go from we found a risk to we fixed it with automated workflows and not just tickets that sit in a queue for weeks.
Gareth, I know a lot of people seem to learn by seeing rather than hearing. Let's show them what all of this looks like in action.
Perfect. Well, let me show you how this works in practice. What I want you to take away from this is the speed. How quickly you go from connecting your environment to having actionable intelligence. So the first thing we do once we connect into a customer's data environment is to build out a complete contextual map of the data we find, the context around it, and how all of this information is interconnected. We build out this inventory that allows us to then drill down and view the connections between any single object within the platform. In this case, looking at an AI agent, the data systems it has access to, the users and groups that have access to the data, the roles that have been granted that AI agent access to that data, all within one view and one graph. We do this by connecting into all of your various data systems. Security AI connects into over 400 different data systems to ensure complete coverage of your data estate. And once we have that visibility, it allows us to start building those toxic combinations, the insight policies that allows us to surface the risk, such as this example of files that belong to GLBA classification, but have not been properly labeled within your system. We extend this concept of our toxic combinations to compliance standards, in this case looking at HIPAA, and where we can, we will cross-reference and validate these compliance standards automatically based on the information we're gathering. And finally, it allows us to then roll this up and to provide high-level views through our dashboards and reporting to show you where your risks are, what information was discovered, where it resides, and who has access to it.
What would you say is the thing people are most surprised about when they first see this?
It's the breadth of what we find and how fast. So most organizations come in thinking they have a pretty good handle on their sensitive data. Maybe they've done some manual classification in certain environments. Within minutes of connecting to the platform, they're typically seeing exposure they didn't know existed. Not because they were negligent, but because the volume and spread of modern enterprise data makes manual approaches structurally insufficient.
Let's bring the audience back to the slides, Gareth. One of the things that strikes me is how different this is from the fragmented tool landscape most organizations are dealing with today.
And that's the point that this slide makes really well. The status quo for most enterprise security and data teams is what I call the land of silos. You have separate tools for data discovery, data security, access, data mapping, compliance, privacy, risk, cataloging, each with their own data model, their own reporting, and their own integration requirements. Every connection between these tools has to be built and maintained, and you end up with more complexity and no single source of truth. What the data command graph does is replace that with something inherently integrated. All the context lives in one graph. Classification, access, risk, compliance, privacy, AI usage, it's all connected. And that's what makes the toxic combination detection possible. That's what makes cross-regulation compliance possible. That's what makes the speed of remediation possible.
So who's betting on security to solve these problems?
Well, it's large global enterprises with large global data estates and organizations that cannot afford to get this wrong. They trust security to do three things: prevent data breaches with superior risk detection and auto remediation, comply with regulations by eliminating the manual testing and reporting burden, and accelerating AI projects with an integrated data and AI security platform. These aren't organizations that are experimenting, they are production deployments at scale.
And for anyone watching today who wants to go deeper, we've made it easy. Tell them what's available, Gareth.
Well, a few great options depending on where you are in your journey. If you want to build credentials in this space, we offer a DSPM certification and an AI security and governance certification, both free, both valuable for your team. If you're architecting a program, the DSPM Architect Handbook is a practical guide for building out a data security posture management practice. And if you want to see this applied to your specific environment, use the QR code to request a personalized demo, and we'll come to you.
Gareth, before we close, what's the one thing that you want everyone walking away from this presentation with?
Data security is not the thing that slows AI down. It's the thing that makes AI possible at enterprise scale. The organizations that treat governance as a foundation rather than a checkbox are the ones that are going to ship AI projects faster, with more confidence, and without an incident that sets them back 2 years. The window to build that foundation well is right now.
Beautifully put. Well, thank you all for spending some time with us today. We genuinely hope this was useful, and we hope to see some of you in the demo queue. Gareth, thanks for being such a great partner today.
Yeah, absolutely, Colin. And thanks, everyone. Really enjoyed it.